The alarm buzzes. The room is dim, and before your feet even touch the floor, the mind starts racing. For so many of us, the morning is no longer a gentle beginning. It is a storm. Notifications ping, emails pile up, the news headlines glare with urgency. Some mornings it feels like you've lost before you've even begun. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Across America, millions wake up already anxious, already exhausted, already reaching for their phones instead of their breath. It has become normal to roll out of bed and straight into the chaos of the world without pausing to ask, what kind of day do I want to live? And yet 2,000 years ago, one of the most powerful men in history faced the same struggle. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, commander of armies, guardian of an empire, was also just a man lying in bed dreading the weight of another day. In his personal journal, which we now call Meditations, Marcus admitted this very weakness. He wrote about the temptation to stay under the covers, to hide from the duties waiting outside his door. What makes this remarkable is not that he struggled, it's that he answered himself. He reminded himself of who he was, of the purpose he carried, and of the strength available to him. These morning reflections were not written for an audience. They were not public speeches meant to impress the Senate or inspire soldiers. They were private notes written to himself, a man fighting the same battle you and I fight every morning, the battle to rise with intention. And in those fragile, honest words, Marcus left us a map. A set of rituals simple but profound that can transform the way we greet the day. They do not belong to emperors alone. They belong to anyone who longs to begin their morning with clarity, calm, and strength. That is what we are exploring here. Still Within is not just another channel on philosophy. It is a companion for your inner life. Here we return to timeless wisdom, not as distant ideas but as living practices. If you have ever felt that morning slip away too quickly, or that you start your day already weary, then the teachings of Marcus Aurelius can offer something different. A new way to wake, a new way to live. So as you listen today, imagine Marcus himself. The year is 170 AD. The empire is restless. Armies march along distant borders, and yet in the quiet before dawn, the emperor sits alone. He unrolls a sheet of parchment. He writes not to the world, but to himself. Words to steady his mind, words to remind him that life is brief, duty is sacred, and peace must be built within. That is where we begin. With him, and with you, because the way you start your morning matters. It shapes your choices, your energy, your resilience for everything that follows. Today, let us step into those morning rituals: reflection, journaling, visualization, and preparing for the obstacles ahead. This is your invitation to pause, to breathe, and to rise, not just from your bed, but into a day guided by wisdom. And before we go further, I want to gently ask something of you. If you find meaning in what you hear today, consider supporting this journey by staying with us, by joining the Still Within community. Here, every story, every reflection is designed to bring a little more calm to the modern storm. So take this moment, breathe, set aside the noise, and walk with me into the morning wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. It's easy to look at Marcus Aurelius and see only the marble statues, the titles, the history books that call him the philosopher king. It's harder but more important to remember that behind those titles stood a human being. A man who, like us, wrestled with fatigue, distraction, and doubt. In Meditations, Marcus admits something striking. He writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. Why am I complaining if I'm going to do what I was born for?" Pause for a moment. The emperor of Rome, leader of armies, ruler of millions, struggled to get out of bed. This is not the voice of a godlike figure. It is the voice of someone who knew the heavy comfort of the blankets, the temptation to delay, the resistance to face the day's burdens. Think about that. Even Marcus Aurelius, who carried the weight of an empire, confessed that he wanted to stay under the covers. If he felt that way, how much more natural is it that we feel the same? The mornings we dread going to work, the mornings we'd rather hide from our responsibilities, the mornings we pick up our phone to scroll, telling ourselves it's just for a minute, and then suddenly half an hour has vanished. Marcus knew that feeling too, but here's what separates him from most of us. He didn't stop at admitting it. He answered it. He confronted himself with purpose. He reminded himself that he was not born to stay in bed, but to act, to serve, to live. "You were born," he wrote, to work with others, to rise, to carry out your nature as a human being. This was not an easy answer. It was not meant to make him feel good. It was meant to make him rise. And that's what Stoicism does. It gives us the words we need to meet reality, not escape it. Now let's bring this to our world. Picture the typical American morning. The alarm goes off. You hit snooze. Maybe you drag yourself up and immediately open your phone. News headlines scream about chaos. Notifications pull you in 20 directions. Coffee becomes the first lifeline, not because you savor it, but because you need it to survive. By the time you leave for work, you're already running on fumes. Does that sound familiar? It's not weakness, it's habit. But Marcus Aurelius shows us another way. He reminds us that every morning is a crossroads. One path is surrender. Stay in bed, let the day control you, react to the chaos. The other path is intention. Rise, remember who you are, and act in alignment with your nature. Here is where the Stoic morning begins, not with grand rituals, not with hours of meditation, but with a simple decision: to rise, to live according to purpose. This is why Marcus's struggle matters to us. It proves that even the wisest, even the strongest, faced resistance, and it proves that resistance can be answered. So what does this mean for us? It means that the first battle of the day is not against emails or traffic or other people's demands. The first battle is with ourselves. And if Marcus Aurelius could face that battle with courage, then so can we. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore the first of his morning rituals, reflection. How the emperor reminded himself of life's brevity and of the purpose that carried him through. But before we go there, let this question settle in your mind. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings and the temptation whispers to stay under the covers, what will you tell yourself? When Marcus Aurelius woke at dawn, the first battle was simply rising from bed. But the second battle, the one that gave meaning to his day, was reflection. In his journals, Marcus wrote not about conquering nations or ruling people, but about conquering himself. He reminded himself of truths that most of us would rather avoid: that life is short, that time slips quickly away, that death is never far. These may sound dark, but for Marcus, they were the opposite. They were reminders to live. He once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine writing that to yourself first thing in the morning, not as a threat, but as a call to clarity. If today might be your last, what will you waste it on? Complaints? Distractions? Or will you choose to live fully, to meet the world as it comes? This is the power of morning reflection. It clears the fog of trivial concerns and directs us toward what matters. For Marcus, it was about aligning his life with virtue, with justice, courage, wisdom, and self-discipline. For us, it can be about remembering that each morning is not guaranteed, that the gift of another sunrise should not be taken lightly. Think of how most mornings begin in the modern world: a flood of content, the latest argument on social media, the newest crisis on the news, the endless list of tasks. No wonder anxiety has become the default. We are so busy reacting that we forget to reflect. But Marcus shows us another way. Before reacting to the world, respond to yourself. So how can we practice reflection in our own mornings? It begins with a pause. Before you reach for your phone, before you open your laptop, take 2 minutes, just 2. Sit upright, breathe, and ask yourself a question Marcus often returned to. What is in my control today? This question is deceptively simple, but it shifts everything. Instead of drowning in worries about things beyond your reach, it anchors you to the small, real choices that shape your life. What attitude will I bring? What words will I choose? How will I act when tested? Marcus reflected this way because he knew how easily a mind can be hijacked by fear, anger, or pleasure. But with reflection, he could meet the day with clarity, and you can too. Another form of reflection is gratitude, not the shallow kind that forces you to be cheerful, but the deep recognition that you have another day, another chance to live according to your values. Marcus might have seen the sunrise as a reminder: the universe has given me more time, what will I do with it? Here's a simple exercise you can try tomorrow. When you wake, write down one sentence that answers this: if today were my last, what would I want to stand for? Don't overthink it. Let it be raw, honest, then carry that sentence with you as a compass. You will be amazed how quickly this shifts the tone of your day. That annoying email? Less important. That traffic jam? Temporary. That argument you were about to start? Maybe not worth the cost. Reflection pulls you out of the noise and sets your eyes on the horizon. And if this resonates with you, if you felt the difference that comes when you start your morning with clarity instead of chaos, I ask you to do something small. Tap the like button. Not just as a gesture, but as a way to share this wisdom with others who wake up lost in the same storm. It helps this message reach further, and maybe change another morning for someone else. Marcus Aurelius knew that reflection wasn't optional. It was survival. Without it, he would be swept away by anger, flattery, and fear. With it, he could return to his role, not as an emperor, but as a human being striving to live well. And so can you. Tomorrow, when you wake, don't rush blindly into the day. Reflect. Ask yourself what is in your control, what matters, and how you want to live. Because every day you rise, you are writing your own meditations. In the next part of our journey, we'll move to Marcus's second ritual, journaling and visualization. We'll see how the emperor's private notes became a mirror for his soul, and how that same practice can steady us in the modern world. If reflection was the spark that lit Marcus Aurelius's mornings, then journaling was the fire that kept it burning. Unlike modern emperors, Marcus had no social media, no press releases, no ghostwriters. What he had was parchment, ink, and silence. And in that silence, he wrote to himself, not to impress, not to publish, but to remember. The book we now know as Meditations is in truth a journal. Private notes, reminders, reprimands, encouragements, warnings. It is not polished philosophy. It is the raw conversation of a man with his own soul. That is what makes it powerful. Every morning, Marcus returned to this practice. He would write things like, "You will meet people today who are selfish, arrogant, deceitful. Remember, they are this way because they do not know what is good or evil." These were not essays for others to read. They were preparations for himself, visualizations of the obstacles he was certain to face. This is the essence of Stoic journaling. Not self-pity, not mere reflection, but training. Marcus was rehearsing his mind. He was equipping himself to enter a world filled with chaos, knowing that forewarned is forearmed. Now think of our own mornings. Many of us wake and instantly consume the words of others. Tweets, headlines, emails. Rarely do we pause to create our own words, to speak to ourselves. But if Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, found time to journal for his own clarity, what excuse do we have not to? Journaling at its core is a mirror. It reflects what is hidden in the mind. And when combined with visualization, it becomes more than a mirror. It becomes armor. By writing down the difficulties you expect to face, you are less likely to be surprised, less likely to be crushed when they arrive. For Marcus, this meant reminding himself of betrayal, arrogance, ingratitude. For us, it might mean traffic, deadlines, critical emails, or even the exhaustion of juggling too many roles. By writing these down, we reduce their sting. When the event arrives, it no longer feels like an ambush. It feels like something we have already met in the morning light. Here is a simple practice you can try. Take 5 minutes each morning. Open a notebook, or even the Notes app on your phone. Write 3 things. 1 reminder of what truly matters today. 1 obstacle you are likely to face. 1 virtue you want to practice in meeting that obstacle. For example, today what matters is being present with my family. I may face frustration at work when deadlines pile up. I will practice patience, that's it. 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes create a mental rehearsal. They prepare you to step into the day not blindly but armored in awareness. Visualization is another layer. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Marcus would imagine the challenges waiting for him. Insults, betrayals, fatigue, death itself. By imagining them, he weakened their power. He transformed fear into familiarity. You can do the same. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the meeting that might frustrate you, the colleague who might drain you, the moment when you are tempted to give up. Picture it clearly. Then imagine yourself responding not with anger or despair, but with calm. This is not negative thinking. It is strength training for the mind. Modern psychology has caught up to what Marcus knew. Athletes visualize before competition. Surgeons rehearse operations in their minds. Soldiers prepare for battle by imagining scenarios. Why should we treat daily life any differently? Journaling and visualization are not luxuries. They are disciplines. They give you space between stimulus and response, so you are no longer a slave to your impulses. Marcus Aurelius, never intended his private writings to survive. Yet because they did, we see the power of this practice. We see a man at the peak of responsibility, wars, plagues, betrayals, and still every morning grounding himself with ink and thought. If he could find the time, so can we. Try it tomorrow. 5 minutes. A notebook, a pen. Write a reminder, an obstacle, a virtue. Then carry that into your day. You may find that situations that once drained you now become opportunities to practice strength. In the next part, we will explore the third ritual of Marcus Aurelius's mornings, preparing for obstacles. We'll see how his brutal honesty about the hardships of life can actually give us freedom, not fear, and we'll understand why expecting the worst is sometimes the best way to live well. When Marcus Aurelius woke in the early hours, he often reminded himself of one sobering truth. The day ahead would not be easy. He would meet selfish people. He would be confronted with insults, disappointments, and setbacks. He would see betrayal, arrogance, and ignorance. He would face the weight of responsibility that came with leading an empire in crisis. And yet, he wrote calmly, almost as a note to his own soul, that none of this should surprise him. This, in essence, was one of Marcus's most powerful morning rituals, the act of preparing in advance for obstacles. Not to dwell on negativity, but to face reality head-on, to remind himself that life will not unfold exactly as he wishes, and that peace of mind depends not on avoiding hardship, but on meeting it with readiness. For us today, this practice is more relevant than ever. Think of a typical modern morning. You pour coffee, open your email, and instantly see a message that makes your stomach tighten. Or maybe you glance at social media and feel your mood collapse with one careless comment. The car ride to work, stuck in traffic, someone cuts you off. A colleague criticizes your project. A bill arrives you weren't expecting. These are the daily obstacles of modern life, not so different in spirit from what Marcus prepared himself for nearly 2,000 years ago. The Stoic approach here is not to deny that these things are frustrating. They are. But if we expect that the world will sometimes disappoint, then we are not shattered when it does. Instead, we respond with calm. We remind ourselves, I knew this would come. I prepared for this, and I will choose how I respond. Marcus writes, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and I know that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. What does this mean for us? It means we disarm frustration by expecting it. We enter the day armored, not with anger, but with understanding. If someone lashes out, we remember, they too are human, driven by their own struggles and ignorance. Their action is not about us, it is about them. Take an example. Imagine you're in the office and a coworker snaps at you unfairly. The reflex reaction might be to snap back, to defend yourself, but the Stoic preparation transforms the moment. Instead of being caught off guard, you silently remind yourself, I knew this would come. Someone would be rude today. By naming it in advance, you reduce its power over you. What might have become a spiral of anger instead becomes a moment of composure. Another example, traffic. Someone cuts you off, nearly causing an accident. Instead of letting rage hijack your morning, you recall Marcus's wisdom. Obstacles are part of the day's landscape. Just as a sailor expects storms, a driver expects careless drivers. You breathe, steady your hands on the wheel, and keep moving forward. The storm passes and your inner calm remains intact. This ritual is not only about people. Marcus also prepared himself for hardship, loss, and uncertainty. He reminded himself daily that death was part of life, that fortune was fickle, that illness and misfortune could strike at any time. To us this may sound heavy, even dark, but to Marcus it was liberating. By accepting that obstacles and losses are natural, we rob them of their sting. We stop asking, why me? And instead whisper, of course this is life. Now think of financial anxiety, a uniquely modern storm. Prices rise, bills accumulate, debts weigh us down. The temptation is to panic, to imagine the worst. But here too, Marcus's ritual applies. If each morning we remind ourselves, today I may face loss, today I may face financial strain, then when the bill arrives or the account dips, we are not blindsided. We meet it with courage, with perspective, with the question, what is within my control and what is not? This is the Stoic shield, preparation. Not to eliminate difficulty, but to keep it from piercing the soul. And here's the deeper insight. Preparing for obstacles doesn't make you pessimistic, it makes you free. Because when you already expect turbulence, you can choose serenity. The rude comment cannot steal your peace. The bill cannot dictate your mood. The traffic cannot own your morning. You become, in Marcus's words, an inner citadel, unshaken by the chaos outside. So tomorrow, when you rise, borrow this ritual from Marcus Aurelius. Before your feet touch the ground, say to yourself, "Today I will meet challenges. People will disappoint me, plans may break, but I am ready. And I will not let these things rule me." Write it down if you need to. Whisper it to yourself in the mirror. Carry it into the day like armor, not heavy armor, but light and invisible, a shield of perspective. Because when obstacles come, and they will, you will be ready. And readiness is freedom. And if these ideas speak to you, if you find value in preparing your mornings with wisdom that has lasted centuries, then stay with us here at Still Within. Every week, we bring you Stoic practices, stories, and insights you can carry into your daily life. If this resonates, consider supporting this journey by liking this video, sharing it with someone who might need calm today, and subscribing so you never miss a moment of Stoic strength. It's a small action, but together it helps build a community of resilience, a place where wisdom is not just remembered, but lived. So let's rise tomorrow, not surprised by the storm, but ready to meet it, with Marcus Aurelius's words as our morning companion.